Well, I guess you're still here, right? So state and federal update, item 4.1.
I was wondering about that, so I didn't shuffle all my papers.
Okay.
As you know, since the governor's final actions, a lot of information has already been distributed. We had thorough discussions at prior board meetings on a number of the key bills that are in the update. So I don't think it would be too productive for me to rehash what we've already discussed and what has passed. But I would like to point out a few things that are in your packet. As the Chancellor mentioned, if you look at the matrix, we've listed the bills that have been chaptered and vetoed. With the new legislature coming in, I'd look to those bills that did not pass as the ones that the Chancellor hinted we may need to respond to, because many of these bills come back over and over and over again. Unlike prior years in between elections, when we get quite a few hints from the legislature that they have legislative ideas, there hasn't been too many this year because of the election and because it was such a significant election. But one of the topics that does come up, and I expect to continue to come up, will be with respect to veterans. Even in the presidential debates, they talked extensively at one point and also in other various forms about the inability of some veterans to transition properly, get college credit for the academic instruction they had in the military. And we are already dealing with a couple of measures that were chaptered on this, most notably AB 2462 by Assembly Member, now Senator Block, which requires this office to look at courses to recommend for college credit using the American Council for Education's guidelines. And there is another a resolution on that issue as well. So I would look at the matrix for the bills that have not passed for future ideas that we will have to discuss, as well as issue of veterans, which I certainly expect we'll see a number of bills. There's quite a bit of a change in the legislature. I've counted about 38 new assembly members and about 9 new state senators, and also 2 of the sitting senators have been elected to Congress. So there'll be 2 more special elections. As you no doubt have read, we have probably about 2/3 control of on the Senate side and the Assembly side in the state capitol. However, with the special elections in the Senate, that will be delayed a bit before that's all certified. Any questions on the state legislation? If necessary, I can go into more detail on the update.
I think
but
Member
we've done
Ramos has a question.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Mike. I guess I'm looking at the items that were either vetoed or passed but returned. SB 721, Lowenthal, and SB 1062, Liu. What happened there? I don't want to take too much time with this, but I'm mindful that these pieces were natural complements to the student success platform that we were mainly successful on. Did we not do a good enough job with the governor's office to help the governor and his team see this as an integrated package of legislative items? Were there philosophical or practical reasons why the governor pushed back on those pieces? I'm just wondering why we were successful on the main item, but that these ancillary pieces were not seen as part of that package.
It might be a little hazardous to speculate on the governor's personal thoughts on the bills, but if we look at some of his vetoes of legislation, this bill, a bill he vetoed from Senator Steinberg, as well as another Semidian bill, it doesn't appear that the governor wants to burden systems with a lot of accountability measures. Adding data isn't necessarily productive based on those veto message. And as far as 1062, I think that bill does get into the governor's authority over appointments. And the most productive area to improve in that would be to work closely with the governor on appointments, at least in the, given the current situation. I think there are potential constitutional questions if we try to go as far as we've talked about before, giving the chancellor authority to appoint his own vice chancellors because of the governor's authority in appointments. There wasn't an attempt in that in Proposition 92, but in the current system, a close relationship with the governor is the most productive way of enabling us to have that.
Can I have a quick follow-up? Thank you. That's helpful. I'm wondering, in light of the fact that we have so many new members coming in who've not been privy to the conversations that we've been having around student success and all the allied issues, what is our strategy, or what are our imperatives for bringing those new members up to speed? Do we have a strategy to get the new chancellor in front of some of these members to acculturate them to the agendas that we've been developing? I mean, is it premature to have that thinking in place, or does it make sense for us to be trying to get ahead of the wagon on that and developing some kind of a aggressive outreach to bring them up to speed?
I saw the chancellor nodding his head because I know that's a strong interest of his to be involved in the Capitol and to reach out to the members. Even though the election isn't certified yet until mid-December, they will return on December 3rd to the Capitol to get sworn in and maybe even introduce a few bills. So we do need to be as actively involved with the new members as possible. We do have quite a few members that are coming in that have community college experience. We're compiling a list, and I'd like to be able to share that with you, but quite a number of our legislators have had some experience in community colleges at various levels, and as we know, most Californians do because of the size of the system. And we'll probably find out even more as we meet them in person, because many of the legislators tend not to share on their biography where they got their AA and that kind of thing, even though they're very proud of their community college connections. So as we do that outreach, we'll probably find out even more connections.
Very good. Thank you, Mike.
Member Baum?
My hope is that we do recognize that this election was a resounding endorsement of the state for community colleges, and we leverage that effectively to the advancement of the system. I could just name, just off the top of my head, 4 indications of that. 2 new members of Congress, Senator Lowenthal, who is closely identified with community colleges and advocating for community colleges. Also out in Riverside, Mark Takano, a community college trustee, was elected to Congress from there. The San Francisco City College parcel tax was a resounding endorsement of that community for community colleges. I don't know if there was a bond measure up or down the state that failed, and then Prop 30. The legislators, and as you know, that the public deeply treasures community colleges, and I hope that we don't underreach in our ambition, in our advocacy for the system in the coming years. So I'm really looking forward to us developing some recommendations. I don't want to overreach either. I think Prop 92 probably was an overreach, and the timing was not necessarily good timing. But we should all recognize that this election, the people of California said they want strong community colleges, and they're willing to pay for it. And I think the Capitol recognizes that, and will work to support it.
Other member comments? Okay.
Unless there are other questions, I can conclude.
Thank you, Mike.